Well, we had a great conversation. I wanted to continue the conversation and talk a little bit more about the future. And I wanted to ask if we were to reconvene here at this round table, maybe in 50 years, what would be the legacy? What would we be talking about? Or what, I guess, should we be talking about related to Senator Reid? And Michael, let's start with you.
You can talk about a lot of policies, and Dave knows a lot more about policy than I do, so I'm going to put it this way. A kid born and raised in a little mining town, he called the camp that wouldn't fail, in a ramshackle shack, hard rock miner. He talked about how when he got the money, he wanted to get his mother false teeth that she couldn't afford. He dies, and his eulogist is a former president of the United States. The current president attends it. And we should look back in 50 years and say, okay, how do we get from point A to point B? And what does it tell us about our society? What does it tell us about him? And I think these are valuable things to think about.
Interesting. Let's talk about Searchlight for a second. I mean, if we are to travel from here to Searchlight, we are passing a lot of renewable energy, a lot of solar. There's some wind that's going on in that area too. Let's just assume that is expanding. It sure seems to be. I mean, that is a big legacy of his as well. Right?
It absolutely is. And again, you look at his background and think, renewable energy, that's going to be something he's going to get so deeply involved in. But it's also a matter, the person and the times, how do they mingle? And he saw where some others wouldn't, the possibilities for this. There are others who would say, oh, can't we go even farther? And that comes back to the political side. Well, we can go this far, and maybe in 50 years we say, yeah, he had the right idea, and now we've gotten to this point. And it's like the other day, a major automaker, Chrysler, said we're going to be all electric by 2028. I mean, who would have thought that just a few years ago? Reid plays a role in all of that.
Yeah, for sure. David, your perspective.
Well, I think the fact that he was a U.S. Senator should not be overlooked, right? If you look at the history of Nevada politics, the major players were always senators, right? We've never had clout in the House. The governorships, small state. But here's a place where someone from Searchlight gets elected, right? Works tirelessly, has that long career, becomes the apex of political power in this country. And it's because of the structure of the U.S. Senate, right? So it's got its sort of negative points, right, in the sense that it's unrepresentative, but for a state like Nevada, historically, that's where the power's been for us, and Reid sort of magnified that, right, by becoming a national figure. Michael talked about renewable energy. We've talked about the benefits for UNLV. I think the other part of it is just the fact that he was embracing the demographic changes of the country, right? At a time where it wasn't fashionable to do that, right? When his colleagues would say, why are you investing in Latino outreach? They're not going to come out, they're not going to vote. And he said, no, we're going to lay the grassroots that and build that organization. When the consultants say, no, it's TV, he knew it was about people, right? And speaking to people and what they needed. And I think that's part of his long-term legacy. Obviously, the lands bill's been huge for Southern Nevada, right? It allowed us to grow while also trying to protect some of the environment, right? The renewable energy has been huge. The airport has been huge. And then you think about, ACA, right? All the attacks on the ACA for the last decade. It's still standing and much stronger now than it was then. It wouldn't have happened, right? Christmas Eve, twisting arms in that Senate to get that bill through, right? That was huge. And a decade later, it's still there. And think about it in a time of COVID if we didn't have that.
Yeah, absolutely. Affordable care.
And I have to say this, Obama in his autobiography, the single greatest sentence, Obama's a fine writer, but he's talking about passing ACA, and his comment was, Harry was doing Harry stuff. That covered it. I don't need to know more than that. I know exactly what he means.
Yeah, and some of the reports on just the interplay during that time, right around the holidays, is fantastic, very fascinating. And I want to add too, David, we can't forget that we now are going to have a primary in the state of Nevada, and we are going to be the first with our upcoming elections, and that's, I'm assuming, going to have a huge impact on our place.
Yeah, and you think about going back 2008, strong arm in the DNC, say, no, you need a Western state out here, one with union representation, one with changing demographics, put Nevada on the map early on. And, that transformed the state put us on the map, right? We'd always been a swing state, but kind of no one was paying attention to us, and all of a sudden here, and obviously, the Harry Reid, 2 years later on the ballot. Now I have 100,000 voter registration advantage because of what happened in 2008. Let's not forget that either.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, both of you. Appreciate it.